Alrighty. How's everybody doing tonight? Good first day? Okay. So my background before I worked at Adobe, actually my first job in video production was actually doing live switching for events, mostly doing like image magnification and tech direction for rock concerts and award ceremonies and things like that. So that's kind of where a little bit of my history comes from. This is my contact information. I do a lot of training on Adobe software. If you guys are not familiar with a website called Adobe TV, there is actually a show on Adobe TV that I do called Short and Sweet, covering the Creative Suite for Production Premium. So definitely feel free to check that out. And I'll have this information up at the end, just so if you guys are trying to get your cameras out and everything else, no worries. This will be available here. The reason I'm here tonight, obviously, is to talk about the new release that we just announced last night. Production Premium CS 5.5 has been released, and we've been spending a lot of time working and kind of building up the reputation in the video industry. With CS5, we have a number of different areas that we've really become industry leaders with, as far as working with file-based cameras, being able to work directly with footage from cameras like the 5D Mark II, the playback and performance you get with the Mercury playback engine, 64-bit. We're continuing to expand on that, and some of these other tools, including the ability to work outside of the suite. We understand that it's all about workflow and how you guys get your job done the fastest, and we want to make sure you can use whatever tools are necessary to get the job done. So Production Premium CS 5.5, the reason that we're doing a dot release, we announced CS5 at NAB last year at this time, and the reason we're doing a dot release is because the industry is just changing. And we've had this problem where we're trying to get everything done for 2 years and then basically say, well, that's it for 2 years, no more updates. And the industry is just moving so fast that what the plan is at Adobe, we're trying to give you guys something that you can sort of plan for. We're going to continue to have a roughly 2-year cycle for the Creative Suite releases. That's the history of it, and we're kind of going forward, we're saying that's what we're going to try and do from now on, and we want to make sure you guys are aware of it and can plan for it. What we're going to do in the interim year is we are going to moving forward, we are going to start having these dot releases with a .5 release, where some of the applications are going to stay the same, maybe have some bug fixes and things, but there's still going to be, there's still applications like Photoshop in this release that are not getting any major updates, but a lot of the applications are getting updates, and it's all market driven. So like when we're seeing new cameras coming into the market, or we're seeing features that are necessary for DSLR workflows, or you've got all these new tablet devices, we're trying to be able to adapt to that a little bit quicker. So here's what's new if you haven't seen it yet. You can see there are new versions of Premiere, After Effects. The sound booth software is actually morphing and growing up into full-fledged Audition. So if you upgrade to 5.5, we're going to, Audition is a new audio tool for that, as well as a bunch of other tools. Teams like the Photoshop team in this release have actually focused more on tablet devices. I mean, Photoshop does almost everything you need it to do anyway, right? So we're trying to kind of move in a different direction, and the team decided for the dot release to focus on the idea of kind of tying in tablets. So there's going to be some iPad applications that will be available shortly, and there's a whole SDK for other people to write these applications. So that's all I've got as far as slides. Let me just show you a couple of the new features here if you haven't been by the booth yet. And the ergonomics up here as far as using my mouse are going to be a little bit tricky here, so you have to bear with me. But to get started, we are continuing to work with additional hardware vendors, and we are continuing to really make improvements in the way this whole Mercury playback engine works. You may have seen this demonstration before, but keep in mind I'm running this on a laptop computer. We've really expanded on the type of hardware cards for doing GPU accelerated effects. So here I've got a timeline with 7 different layers running on my laptop computer, And if I need to go in and do any type of color correction to a layer in this project here, let me just, hold on, bear with me here while I'm kind of struggling with the mouse just a touch. We can make this go. So here I've got all these different layers going on. This top layer actually has a chroma key effect applied to it. I'm going to go ahead and select this layer here and take a color corrector and throw it on one of these layers. I'll take the RGB curves effect because I kind of like that one. Toss it onto this layer. Come up in here to my effect controls. Scroll down just a bit. Now I'm adjusting one of these this top upper left corner here. So if I start to move this around, can everybody see how that's adjusting the color on that clip? So I'm going to go ahead and adjust the color on this. We'll go ahead and get a nice look for this. Maybe we'll add just a little bit of a red to this. Push the blue a little bit higher here. That looks pretty good like that. Now if I want to see that play, I just hit play and it plays. But even better, if now I want to match all the background layers, again, I can just grab this effect, copy it, select all these layers, and Command V or Control V, and again, just hit play and it just plays. So this type of performance, we've been showing it to you on desktop systems and having this GPU acceleration. We now have 6 or 7 different laptop chipsets that are now available. So I'm running this on a Hewlett-Packard mobile workstation. And so you can get this same type of performance even on a laptop system. Continuing to add advancements in the way Mercury works, there's new effects, new film dissolve, new types of blur effects that are all accelerated. And we're actually getting to a point now where we've got After Effects users are actually starting and using Premiere first because they can build a composition that just plays in real time, and then they send stuff as necessary over to After Effects for more complex stuff. Now the one big new feature that everybody has been kind of pointing to in this 5.5 release is a feature for doing camera stabilization. Now if you saw the big rig that we had in here earlier, trying to stabilize a shot like this, obviously you can use a big harness, you can use the big arm to be able to get a nice stabilized shot like for something like this. But we're adding a new feature called the Warp Stabilizer. And this is actually, it lives over in After Effects, but I want to show you how easy it is to get to from Premiere. I've got my clip in my timeline here. I'm going to right click on this and choose Replace with After Effects Composition. And what this will do in one step, this will come over. Of course, it's going to resave my, my After Effects project because I made some changes to it a minute ago. This is what takes longer than anything because it's a big project here. It's going to save my After Effects project, but it's going to take the footage, the trimmed footage, and drop it right into a new composition over here in After Effects where I can start to manipulate it. We'll let that finish here. So here's the footage, and again, I haven't done any stabilization to this. So this is, monopod shot with, trying to do a nice walk around here on this, the footage here. To do the warp stabilization on the shot, I just come over here to the effects and presets, type in the word warp, and I'll find there's the warp stabilizer. And when I drag and drop this on the clip, it's going to start doing the analysis in the background. There's no picking points, there's nothing complex that you have to worry about. It's just going to go through and do this. So this has already started the process. Now keep in mind, if I switch back over to Premiere Pro, it's actually doing the the same clip is in here. You can see there's my analyzing in background. So I mean, I could go through and continue to edit the rest of this footage. I could continue to work. Even over in After Effects, I'm not tied in. I could actually jump to a different composition and continue to work here in After Effects without any problem. So it's a true background process. And just to keep you guys from having to wait here, I'm going to jump into one that I've already gone through and run the process. It takes about 3 minutes to run it on this particular clip here. So let me go ahead and preview. Once again, here's the original source footage. And here is what the stabilized shot ends up looking like here. This takes a little bit to preview here on my system while it's doing all this other stuff in the background. But it really does a good job of smoothing out the footage, because what it's actually doing, we've actually published a couple of papers on this because it's a different way of doing stabilization. It's something that hasn't been done before. It combines 2D stabilization, position and rotation stabilization, as well as looking at parallax within the shot. So it actually is mapping the video into a grid, and it's picking up and moving points around and stretching this piece of video here to kind of readjust the alignment, stretching other pieces of the video. So at the end of the day, there's one little hiccup in this shot, but you can see the money shot really plays back nice and smooth. Now, some things that will show, it will kind of throw this off. I'd love to say this is always going to be a drag and drop, work great every single time, but I'm generally an honest person. So there are a few things that can throw it off. And it seems that there was a flash at one point in this which did kind of slightly throw it off. But if I take this from here and play it back, it's amazingly smooth throughout the rest of the shot. The controls for this, this does have a special control built into it. How many here are DSLR shooters? Okay, dealing with rolling shutter at all? This actually does have, since we're already going through and mapping the video into sort of a 3D geometry, and we're correcting for certain parallax issues and kind of stretching certain points as we're doing the analysis of this, there is a feature built into this. It's called rolling shutter ripple reduction, and it's got 2 settings on it. So if you're just dealing with rolling shutter issues, this can actually do a really good job of correcting for that as well. So this whole time I've been sitting here talking, I think this has already gone through and done the analysis. It's just finishing up, and now it's doing the stabilization step. And so this is, again, it's a really nice drag and drop function. I can go through and do a RAM preview of this here. So this is the clip I had in Premiere. I just went ahead and ran the process all over again here. You can see I'm RAM previewing this here. And when I jump back over to Premiere, I don't even have to save it. Just give it a second to update. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000. Oh, you're making me look bad tonight. There we go. I just had to kind of scrub the timeline a little bit. So now I can actually see this playback here in Premiere. So the tie-in with After Effects, you don't have to learn After Effects to use this. If you can right-click on the clip in the Premiere timeline and you can drag and drop the effect, you can actually let After Effects do all the work in the background, and it'll show up when it's done. It'll show up in Premiere. Kind of cool? Okay. Yeah, a couple of other new things inside of After Effects. There's another function in here that's actually more geared towards animators. And for anybody, does anybody here shoot like really narrow depth of field stuff? Really getting into like, especially DSLR shooters, shooting at, an f1.4 and you get that really narrow depth of field. If you've ever tried to add titles to a shot like that, something that I've seen done out there is where people will actually use blurs to kind of make the titles look like they're sitting on the tabletop and things like that. The challenge with that, of course, is the bokeh, or the unfocused areas don't look they don't look like Gaussian blur or any of the other traditional blurs. So what we've done is added a new function called camera lens blur. And the way camera lens blur works, let me go ahead and just set this to fit up to 100%. This allows you to take artificial elements in a shot. This is an example shot here. Let me find a good frame here, where we've got this guy. Obviously this isn't wedding related here, but we've got a guy casting a magic spell, and obviously there's a lot of depth of field being used in this shot. To make this look realistic, if I go back and I rack focus back to the actor's face, I need to be able to blur this effectively and look like it was in camera. So this new camera lens blur effect, actually if I turn this up, when an object like this blurs, it actually provides a camera-like effect to particles. So if I come in here and I adjust this bigger, you'll notice that the little light motes are actually breaking apart like an iris. They're getting a hexagonal shape, and that's something that can be adjusted. So if I want to go really old school, I'm shooting on some crazy camera, I could change those to triangles. But honestly, where I'd probably want to go is make them more round and circular. There's an octagon, and again, I can come in here and adjust the roundness, the rotation, so I could match realistic pieces within the footage. Now, if you're in a situation where you'd love to do a rack focus from one place to another, but as we heard earlier today, many times people are solo shooters out there, you don't have the ability to really set up and do a kind of a rack focus. This same effect can be used in post-production with a little bit of work. It's not quite an automatic function. You can set up and create a mask from one element to the next. So here I'm actually using, this isn't a real rack focus, there's actually a setting in here that I can come in and I can actually rack focus from the hand to the actor in post-production. Now to do this, you do have to kind of set up a mask of what the two areas are going to be that you want to be able to pull focus. What's in the background, what's in the foreground. So there's a little bit of work that you have to do. There's a tool in After Effects called the Roto Brush, which is actually really good for generating this type of work. But it's something else that you can also accomplish. So two places I just see this being used. First off, anytime you're trying to put together a shot, you want to do that rack focus and you can't because you got one person. It's got to be right the first time. You don't want to screw up the shot. This will give you a tool to be able to do that. Or if you want to do something creative with titles, and again have, like a slow, use a slider to kind of push into a wedding cake or push into something where you're using really narrow depth of field. You could actually have the title kind of come into focus at the same time with the camera and have it match. Now jumping back over to Premiere, the last thing that I want to take a little bit of time and show you guys, and there's a lot more than what I'm showing you, I'm just trying to kind of give you the highlights here. The last thing I want to talk about is audio. And there's two features that we've added to Premiere dealing with audio. One of the challenges was, of course, with a lot of these DSLR cameras is shooting second source audio and having to line that up. So this is just some housekeeping that we had to do. We had to get this, make sure that we had a workflow for making that easier. And what people were telling us is they wanted to be able to line up two clips and then drop them back in their project bin. So when they're actually editing, they're only dealing with one set of clips that they're dragging and dropping around, that they're moving around in the source monitor. So we've now added that functionality. So you can use a timeline to very quickly sync up two shots. You can use time code information. You can use the in and out points if you're recording at the same time. Or you can manually set it up with clip markers. But now you have this option of being able to select multiple clips and choose merge clips. And what this will do is create one merged icon that acts like one file. It loads up in the source monitor. It edits just like you shot audio with the camera. So just something new that we're adding in on this front. Now, more importantly, the whole function of audio and the way Audition gets integrated into the suite, Audition basically has always been kind of the big brother of Sound Booth. It's only been a Windows tool up until now. It's never been on the Mac before. So with CS 5.5, Audition is taking the place of Sound Booth. It really has all the functionality that Sound Booth had, but it now there's a lot more associated with it. And what we've done is we've integrated Sound Booth and Audition together. So once you've gotten a project edited, you've got your edit locked, you're ready to start really managing and tweaking the audio, we've added a one-click function to say edit in Audition, and you can send your entire timeline sequence over. So at this point, this will send each of the individual stems. It'll send the names of all my audio tracks as I've named them in Premiere, and it'll even render out and create a preview video clip. So when I jump over to Audition when this is done, I have a video panel, which I'll drop here so we can see it. I've got all my individual tracks. I can go in and start working with individual tracks by double-clicking on them. I can view these tracks working with more traditional waveforms, or I can use a spectral view. And we've even pulled some functionality out of Photoshop, actually exists in Audition. So if anybody's ever used a healing brush on a photograph, you can actually use that same technique to clear out if, like, let's say this is an unwanted noise, somebody dropped something. I could actually use this to paint out that noise, and this will auto-heal the noise for me but keep the background level. So there's a lot of nice things. I can't give you guys a full demo of Audition tonight, but Audition as a sound tool, it's well respected in the radio industry. It's been around for quite a while. And best of all, once I've done all these changes, I can then export this back out to Premiere, either as individual tracks, or I can choose to mix this down to a 5.1 mix, a stereo mix, and I can export out these files back over to Premiere so that I can then export out my final project. So this is really the first step in integrating Audition back into the suite. So any long-time Audition users out there, it's going to now be part of the suite with 5.5 and moving forward. Okay, any questions? All right, I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. We're in Vegas, so I'll let you have the rest of your evening. And I honestly want to see what Sony is showing tonight, because that camera looks awesome. So thank you guys so much. I'll be around if you have any questions.